Oh, hey guys, sorry if I look rough. Days off, being lazy, coming down with something. So many excuses. I don't know what it is. The last 5 hours or so, something just hit me. But anyway, I wanted to do a review of season 2 of 13 Reasons Why. It was dropped on Friday at midnight. I actually finished the whole season in one day. I watched the first half of it in the first part of the day, went to sleep for a little bit, and stayed up till 7 o'clock in the morning watching the second half. And I finally finished the last episode at about 7:30 in the morning, and with the way the last episode ended, I probably shouldn't have stayed up until 7:30 in the morning watching it, because it was one of those things where you think about it and you're just kind of like, holy shit, did that just happen? Obviously, there's going to be spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen or haven't watched season 2 yet, or haven't watched 13 Reasons Why at all, which I recommend you do, I would go and watch season 2 and then come back and watch this, or if you want to be spoiled, then keep watching this. But I wasn't sure what to expect with season 2, because originally the show was only supposed to be one season. When 13 Reasons Why was originally announced, it was originally announced, I believe, as a movie starring Selena Gomez, and then it turned into a TV show that was supposed to be on Freeform or something like that, and then it turned into Netflix picking it up, and then they cast Katherine Langford as Hannah Baker, which is absolutely incredible. I'm so glad they went with her instead of Selena Gomez. I just think she plays the part much better. But I am a huge fan of the book. I'm a huge fan of the first season. I've actually had the book stolen from me 3 different times, and I've bought it 3 different times. I love this book so much that I read it, like I said, 3 times, and I actually listened to the audiobook on Audible on the way home from work, because I like listening to it. It's a very heartbreaking book. It brings a lot of issues up front that now, this book was written 5 years ago, I think. I think it was originally released in 2013. And it brings a lot of stuff to light that 5 years ago wasn't talked about it as much as it is now, as far as, mental illness and things like that. So I was excited for the series to be picked up by Netflix, because Netflix has an incredible reputation when it comes to, originals. There's actually a couple of other things that I'd like to review. There's a movie on there called The Kissing Booth I'm probably going to review for you guys too once I watch it. But anyway, I wasn't sure where they were going to go with season 2, because season 1 followed the book so well, but the book ends where season 1 ends. The book ends with him talking to a girl named Sky, who he decides, I didn't save Hannah Baker's life, so I'm going to save Sky's life. And the book ends with him walking out of school with Sky, and it just becomes this whole thing. You don't know what happens between them in the book, but he's trying to save her life like he didn't do with Hannah, because the whole struggle with the book is him, I didn't do enough to save Hannah's life. I didn't tell her that I loved her. I didn't tell her that she was important. I didn't tell her that she meant the world to me. And Clay struggles through all of the book and all of season 1 saying, hey, I wish I would have done something more. I wish I would have said something. I wish I would have told her that I loved her. But season 2, like I said, wasn't sure where it was going, and it was not a disappointment at all. Now, season 2 started out with, which I was happy with, started out right away, 5 months after Hannah's death, and it showed the progression of the relationship between Sky and Clay, and it just kind of showed, that they were together, that he had done what he wanted to do as far as saving her, because he saw that she was troubled like Hannah was, and so he saved her, and it shows them being in a relationship. And the premise of season 2 is court. That's the main storyline of season 2 is court, because Hannah Baker's mother has decided to sue the school system because they didn't do anything about Hannah's death. They didn't Um, like if you look in season 1, she goes to Mr. Porter, the guidance counselor, about what's going on as far as, I was assaulted by this person and this happened and I'm thinking about killing myself, and the guidance counselor, essentially the school knew about it and didn't do anything because there were rumors and all these pictures going around and the school did nothing. So I think it was kind of a wrongful death lawsuit kind of thing against the school. Each episode, from what I gathered, and maybe I'm wrong, somebody can correct me on this, but it looks like what I gathered from each episode is each episode basically just focuses on each one of the kids in court telling their testimony. And there's a few there's side stories and stuff in between, of course, but I think the main thing that season 2 got me was there wasn't supposed to be a season 2. So what they did with season 2 was absolutely incredible because you pulled story from a book that you had nothing else to work off of. These writers, directors, producers, actors had nothing else to pull from the material from the book because it was over. Like I said, once season 1 ended, what happened at the end of season 1 is what happened at the end of the book. So there was no more material. So these producers and these directors and these writers have pulled material out of the air from the story, from the original story, and made an incredible season 2. Like, there were so many emotions that you go through watching season 2. And, you go from laughing to crying to holy shit. Like, there's a couple parts where, it happened in season 1, too. Like, the scene where Hannah Baker actually kills herself. Like, I became physically ill because that scene was so realistic, and that scene was so... It was so heartbreaking, and I know people that have taken their own lives, not in the way she did, but it was a hard scene to watch. And there's a scene in the either last episode or second to last episode in season 2 that happens too, and I don't know if they're doing that on purpose because I think the same episode number that she killed herself is the same episode number that this disturbing thing happened, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But there's so many emotions that you feel watching the show because Clay actually starts talking to Hannah at one point. She actually shows up in his room and he can see her and he talks to her. He's, what am I supposed to do? And whenever something comes up in court about Zach, for example, saying that he was her first, that she lost her virginity to him and not to Clay like everybody originally thought. Just things like that. When he speaks to her about that, and you feel for him because the way he talks to her, and he's like, at one point he tells her, "I can't forgive you for what you did. I cannot forgive you for taking your own life." And he struggles with himself too. He can't forgive himself and he can't forgive her because it's one of those things where if you know somebody who's killed themselves and you think you could have done something about it, you never forgive yourself for something like that because he was in love with her and he didn't do anything about it. There's just and I'm sorry I don't know all the names. I wasn't able to look it up, but everybody in this show, from Dylan that plays Clay to Catherine that plays Hannah to I think her name wasn't Ashley, I can't remember. She played Jessica, and the one that played Tyler, the one that played Alex. They were all, the one that played Justin, the one that played Bryce, the one that played Zach. Everybody in this show is absolutely incredible when it comes to the acting. Like, Bryce is the one that sexually assaulted Hannah in season 1. And every time he speaks in season 2, and excuse my language, but all you can think when he speaks in season 2 is, "Oh, fuck you," because everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. Because he's just a piece of shit jock, and he did exactly what he's saying he didn't do. There are things that you learn in season 2 that they kind of pulled, like I said, out of the air because it didn't happen in season 1, like the relationship between Zach and Hannah. And you're like, okay, Hannah wasn't as innocent as they say she was, but she still didn't deserve to be manipulated and ridiculed like she was. She definitely didn't deserve to get raped in a hot tub by Bryce because she had lost her virginity to Zach and not told anybody. Because the most messed up thing about that was that she had told Zach that, hey, I want to give myself to you, and he did the same thing because it was their first time together. And then at the end of the summer, he tells her, hey, let's not tell anybody about this. I don't want anybody to know. I just want to keep it between us. And then, of course, anybody who gets told that is going to be like, okay, we've spent this whole summer together. I gave myself to you, and now you're telling me that you don't want to be seen with me in public. So that was kind of a messed up situation. Zach ends up being a good guy. It was just the reason that he was the way he was is because he had to play baseball with Bryce, he had to play football with Bryce, and so he basically just tried to stay on the fence so he wasn't trying to piss anybody off, because he knew that if he pissed Bryce off, it was going to lead to something else. The one thing I wish they would have focused on a little bit more is Alex's story. Alex is the one that in season 1 at the end shot himself, but he didn't die. He shot himself, and he actually lost a lot of his memory. And season 2 focuses on him trying to get his memory back and trying to figure out what happened, and if he can remember anything about Hannah's death or anything like that. And so season 2 was basically him. It was him dealing with his injury, and Zach and a couple other people helping him with his injury, but there really wasn't much more to it. At the end of his story, he finally gets his memory back, and he remembers that he was there the night that Hannah got assaulted in the hot tub, but he didn't realize that's what was happening. He was sitting on the couch inside the house with Justin playing video games, and you can hear Bryce and Hannah in the hot tub, but he just thought that Bryce was hooking up with somebody in the hot tub, and he didn't think anything of it. It wasn't until later that he realized, I was there and didn't do anything about it. But like I said, to his defense, Bryce had hooked up with a lot of women, so to him it was another woman. He didn't realize that was what was happening. I think the biggest storyline that got to me was Justin's storyline, because I've, not personally myself, I've never done drugs, but I know at least 2 people in my past that have done heroin, and when Justin comes back into the story, he, in season 1, had taken off at the end of the season, and taken off to Oakland, California, and had lived on the streets and had lived in some kind of homeless camp or something, and he actually got hooked on black tar heroin. And so his story in season 2 is dealing with an addiction and dealing with black tar heroin, because when Clay finds it, he actually flushed it down the toilet, so he goes through a withdrawal period, and he actually finds more of it, has somebody buy some for him, and Alex walks into Clay's house to talk to Clay, and Justin's laying on the bed, and he's got a needle. I mean, you can see the needle, it's in his arm, and you can actually see Alex pull the needle out of his arm, and Alex is, like, his whole, with him shooting himself in the head and living, he's on a cane, so his whole, like, left half of his body, right half of his body, something doesn't work. So, I mean, Justin's laying there, I mean, he's sprawled out on the bed, and when Alex first walks in, like, my reaction out loud, thank God, by myself, was, oh shit, because, like, I thought Justin was dead. Like, that scene was so emotional, but so well done at the same time, because, like I said, the realism of pulling the needle out of his arm, and Alex trying to roll him over so he doesn't choke on his own vomit, I mean, it's so emotional and so real, because I know that there's people that actually go through stuff like that. I know that there's people that actually go through struggles like that. And of course, finally, Alex is able to get him rolled over on the side of the bed, and he was able to release, that bile that's in his throat, because if he wouldn't have, he would have choked to death. It almost reminded me of I don't think it was as severe, but if anybody's seen Breaking Bad, it almost reminded me of the scene where Walter watches, damn it, it's been so long since I watched the show. sorry, I can't remember her name. But he watches her die in the bed. You know what I'm talking about. But he watches her die. He watches her choke on her own vomit, and he goes to save her. And then instead of saving her, he just stands there and watches her die. Alex doesn't let that happen with Justin, but I mean the drugs and the moment was just reminding me a lot of that scene. Let's see, Jessica's character definitely didn't have, at least to me, didn't feel like she had as big of a role in season 2. She was supposed to be the main focus in the courtroom because she was also assaulted by Bryce. She was assaulted at the party at her house when she got drunk. And it does focus more on her later in the season. Like the first half of the season is they're trying to figure out who is threatening who, basically, because in the first 4 or 5 episodes, there's 13 episodes in every season. In the first 4 or 5 episodes, Clay keeps getting these different notes saying, there's a Polaroid picture he gets, and it says Hannah wasn't the only one, and it's a picture of Bryce assaulting some woman. He's on top of her and he's having sex with her, but this woman is passed out. She's not conscious, but you can't tell who the woman is. And later on, it's revealed that the woman is actually his current girlfriend, Chloe, which I really liked her character too. She was a new character for season 2. She basically was the girlfriend of Bryce, who had stuck by him, didn't want to believe that he was who people said he was, and she has a big ending to season 2 as well. But yeah, I enjoyed her character because at first you think, she's being fake, she's being something she's not, because she's being oddly nice to Jessica. So you think that, okay, she's the typical mean girl, she tells Jessica that Jessica's going to be the top of the pyramid for the cheerleading squad, and you're thinking, oh, okay, that's bullshit. Jessica's not going to be, she's going to make Jessica fall, she's going to do something. And I was actually pleasantly surprised that I was wrong on that, because throughout the entire season, she's actually nice to Jessica. She's actually sincere, and you find out that she is sincere. The only time I did not like Chloe is she actually goes on the stand to testify, and even though she was unconscious in the picture of her and Bryce having sex, she says that it was consensual. So there's nothing there when she testifies. There's nothing to that. So those Polaroid pictures that were taken basically don't mean anything, because she's saying that it was consensual. And that's where the Polaroid pictures, where Bryce's conviction could come in, because about 8 episodes into the season, Clay, Alex, and Justin Justin already knew about the clubhouse, but they find this thing called the clubhouse, and it's this shack that basically the jocks hang out in the woods, and they take women, and anytime that they would hang out with these women, they would take pictures of them, and Clay finds this box full of Polaroids, and it's got the pictures of him and Chloe, and it's got a picture of Hannah, and it's got pictures of all these different women, and Clay's thinking, okay, we can use this, we can use these pictures, and somebody ends up stealing the pictures. Somebody actually breaks into Clay's car and steals the pictures, so they end up not being able to be used. The whole season, and I'm sorry if I'm all over the place with this, I'm still processing everything in my mind, but I wanted to get this video done. But the whole season overall, there's so many things that happen in season 2, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like the way they told everybody's story and the way they spread everything out was very, very well done. I mean, you had Clay's story, and you had Justin's heroin addiction, you had Alex dealing with his injury and trying to get his memory back, and you had Jessica dealing with what Bryce had done to her, and you had the whole town dealing with Hannah's death. You had Tyler being bullied, and Tyler was the one that in season 1 got caught taking pictures of Hannah through her bedroom window. Sorry. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with the way that the producers and the directors and everybody did this show. I'll talk about the last 4 episodes or so, and the tapes actually got released. If you've seen season 1 or you've read the book, you know that Hannah threatens everybody and says, hey, if you don't pass these tapes on to the next person, they'll be released, because Tony, which everybody knows Tony from season 1, which he has a background story too, of why he's on probation. You just watch the show. It's not too much to get into. But Tony was friends with Hannah, and he had the second set of tapes and was going to release them if that didn't happen. And the last 3 or 4 episodes, the tapes get released anyway. I think it was Alex that did it. I think it was Alex that released them because he wanted to listen to the tapes because he had lost his memory. So he kept asking Clay over and over again, hey, give me the tapes. I want to listen to this. I need to know what happened. Because he's hoping it'll jog his memory and that he'll remember something. So Clay finally sends him the tapes on his phone, and the next day they get released. And that just causes a whole shitstorm, because when the conviction comes out, which kind of pisses me off, because I hate the Bryce character. The actor that plays him, if he ever saw this, thank you, because you are such a good actor that you make me hate you on screen every single time you speak. Because when he was on the stand talking about him and Hannah's relationship and how he didn't assault her, you just were like, just stop talking, because you knew he was lying about everything. So it was just one of those things where he was so good at hating him that you almost hate him so much that, like, if you saw the actor in person, you'd be like, just fuck you, because that's how good he was. But the verdict finally comes out after everything, and all Bryce gets is 3 months probation. After raping 2 women and having evidence of raping more, he actually gets only 3 months probation, and he actually ends up transferring schools. Yeah, I think that was the second most shocking part of season 2. The shocking part is the ending. I wasn't expecting that, but it did show a side of society where people get away with things now, and I think that was kind of the point. Is that a lot of people get away with things that behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. With him doing what he did to all these women, only getting 3 months probation, kind of led to the ending of the show. So the tapes get released. That's when everybody finds out, because not everybody's listened to the tapes, of course. If you know the story of season 1, you know that the only people that listened to the tapes were the 13 people that were on the list. So when the tapes get released, the entire school finds out that Tyler's a pervert, that Tyler, would, take pictures of Hannah in her bedroom. So, what was his name? Starts with an M. It's somebody that Bryce plays baseball and football with. But he actually beats the shit out of Tyler in the men's bathroom. And I mean, like I cringed, because he walks into the men's bathroom and he asked Tyler, he said, what the fuck did you do? And this is after Tyler has gone to, an anger management camp. He's come back. He's not the same person he was, because he causes a lot of problems in season 2 with a group of friends that he had met, and he tries to expose, Bryce by doing different things. And so Monty, that's his name, Monty walks into the bathroom, and he says, what the fuck did you do? And, Tyler's trying to talk him down. Tyler's like, I'm trying to fix this, I've gone to this camp, I'm calm, I'm not angry anymore. And Monty takes his head and slams it up against the mirror, and actually shatters the mirror with the back of his head, and then slams his head twice on the sink. And, like, when it happens so quick that, like, you just don't know what to do. Like, you don't know how to react. You're just like, what is happening right now? And then he drags him to the toilet, and he dunks his head in the toilet like he's going to drown him, and then lifts him up and does it again. And then he actually, and this is the part that I was telling you about earlier, where it actually made me cringe. And if anybody knows, or if anybody's seen season 2, you know what I'm about to say. Because it is one of the most fucked up scenes I have ever seen in my life. Because Monty actually makes 2 guys hold him down and actually sexually assaults him with a mop handle by shoving it up his ass. That's what he does to get back at Tyler. He takes a mop handle and he shoves it up Tyler's ass. And he leaves him there in the bathroom after he's beat the shit out of him. Which leads to Tyler, in the last episode and a half, having a mental breakdown. After Bryce's conviction, there's I think they call it the winter formal. They all go to this dance, and Clay gets a text message saying that, was it Clay that got a text message? I believe so. That Tyler was going to do something bad, and Tyler was going to shoot up the dance. He was going to walk in, and he was going to kill everybody. He had taken everything that he had, when it shows him drive up to the school, he has a utility belt, and he's got 2 handguns on each side. He's got an AR-15, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure if that's what it is, but I believe that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, he's got just artillery, everything that he needs. And since Clay's got this text message, he walks outside to stop him, and it's all reminiscent of Columbine. I don't know if anybody caught this or not, but this was, I thought, in the details, was... It's sad. I'm not saying that Columbine was a great thing to happen, but the way they detailed what Tyler said and the day it happened, I thought was a good touch for the show, because unless you know the history, you wouldn't catch it. Because the dance happened on April 20th. So Columbine anniversary is April 20th, 99. So if Tyler would have went through with this shooting, it would have happened exactly 19 years to the day of Columbine. And the other thing that references Columbine is when Clay walks outside to stop Tyler. He says, "Tyler, what are you doing?" And Tyler says, "Clay, just go home. Get out of here and go home." And Dylan said the same exact thing to one of the kids that was smoking out in the parking lot the day of Columbine. He walked up to him and asked him what he was doing. And he said, "I like you, just go home. Just get out of here and go home." And I don't know if that was intentional, if that was supposed to be a reference that you were supposed to catch, but if it was, I did. And I thought it was something that you could catch and say, hey, that was reenacting history. But Tyler doesn't end up going through with the school shooting, which thank God he didn't, because not only do I not want to watch a scene of him mowing down a bunch of people with a gun, but it would have just probably got the show canceled, because there's so many people that are already shitting on the show because it has to do with sexual assault, and it has to do with suicide, and it has to do with violence and drugs. And I mean, I think one of the reasons why I like this show is because the show is so damn real. There's so many things in the show that make this show amazing, and I get upset by the people that say, oh, this show shouldn't be on the air. Yes, it should. Because this show, to me, shows how to deal with things and how not to deal with things. It shows both sides of it. And I think it's something important. I wouldn't say to let your teenagers and your kids watch it by themselves, but it's something important to sit down and watch with them and discuss with them, what you would do in a situation like that. Whether it's a school shooting, whether it's a sexual assault, whether it's drug abuse, whatever. You sit down and you talk with your kids about stuff like that. And if you're not watching it with your kids, then you sit down with your kids and you say, hey, have you watched this show yet? And if your kids say, yeah, I've watched it with friends, then you say, hey, is there anything that you want to talk about with the show? Is there anything that you have questions about? Is there anything that you want to talk about? You just have to be an involved parent. I wouldn't suggest taking a show off of television because it has to deal with real life issues, because then you're just guarding your child. Then you're just protecting your child from something that once they get out in the real world, they're going to find out anyway. So, I mean, without overwhelming your child, you should just talk about things with your child and make them realize that there's things in the world that they're gonna come across that's not gonna be good. But the ending of season 2 was shocking because it's leading to a season 3. I wasn't sure if it would, but after everything that happened, we find out Jessica actually hooks up with Justin while she's at the dance with Alex. She tells Alex that they're in a relationship and then hooks up with Justin at the winter formal. And while she's in the bathroom, fixing her face and whatever before she goes back out to the dance, Chloe walks out of the stall, and she tries to talk to Jessica, and Jessica says, please don't, and she stops her, and Chloe actually announces that she's pregnant. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Bryce reacts in Season 3 to that, because Bryce is not a good person, and that is not somebody who should be having a child. So it'll be interesting to see in Season 3 how he reacts to that. And the season actually ends with everybody going, Clay tells everybody to go back inside, Tyler points the AR-15 because he's got the strap, and he actually, picks it up and is pointing it at everybody. They're still outside the school. There's only the main group of people are the ones that are outside. Clay says, everybody go back inside, I've got this. And he eventually talks Tyler down. Like, Tyler says, I have to do this. I can't let them go on like this anymore. I can't let them do what they're doing anymore. And Clay finally talks him down and finally gets the gun away from him. And you can hear the police coming in the background. You can hear the police. Somebody's obviously called the cops. I mean, one of their group has called the cops. And they're coming, and Tony speeds up in his car, in his Mustang, and says, if you don't get in the car, let's get the fuck out of here. And so Tyler jumps in Tony's car, and they take off before the cops get there. And everybody walks outside, because of course it's safe now, because Clay has the gun in his hand, and he's holding it. He's not holding it like he'd hold a gun. He's holding it by, like, the barrel, and it's, facing upward. And you can hear the police coming in the background, and the season ends with him holding the gun as the cops are pulling up to the school. So my guess is that Season 3 is going to start with the cops pulling up to him and arresting him, thinking he's the one that was going to shoot up the school, because when the cops pull up, he's going to be holding the gun. And so, like, when Season 2 ends and the credits roll, and you're just like, okay, now I need Season 3. I mean, that's legit how I felt, because with him holding that gun, like, they're not going to kill off Clay, obviously, because he's the main character for the show. But the way that Season 2 ended with him holding the gun, the cops pulling up, it's going to be interesting to see how they start out that scene at the beginning of Season 3. I mean, I think that's what they need to do. Like, with Season 2, like I said, when it started, it was 5 months ahead. It was 5 months after Hannah's death. With Season 3, I think it needs to start off exactly where Season 2 ended, because we need to see what leads up to the cops getting there and what they do to Clay since he's got the gun, and what happens to Tyler throughout the season. This is all for Season 3. But yeah, I mean, the way that they did the ending of it, the way they pulled everything out of Season 2 out of the air because they didn't have anything to work with, the interaction between Hannah and Clay and keeping Hannah in the show even though she was dead was amazing. Catherine Langford, if I ever get the chance to meet that woman, I would thank her and every single cast member that I could, because everybody on that show is absolutely incredible. I am so ready for Season 3 already. I mean, Season 2 just dropped 2 days ago, and I'm already ready for Season 3.